Let me ask you a question. Are you ready to get rich? Very good question, and let's dive into that today. Hey, Frank Thomas here from Wealth Generation Strategies, and I'm glad to be here with you once again. Today we're going to be cracking open a little book called The Richest Man in Babylon. This one right here. It is a book that I recommend that you pick up. It is a small book. You can literally read it in an evening or two. It contains some of the most incredible wealth secrets on the planet, and I'm not exaggerating this one. It was written about almost 100 years ago now. I think it came out in 1926 by George Clason. It is a simple book to read. It's nice because it does talk about real wealth secrets based around a fiction story, which is really nice. It's written in a nice context. If you take and really read this book, you can get a lot from it. And that's the reason why I really wanted to do a few videos on this book, because it's easy, like I said, to read in an evening or two, which means you can skip over or miss a lot of things in it. In this first video, we're going to be talking about the whole topic of, are you ready to get rich? Because in the first chapter, that's what it really talks about, whether we realize it or not. It's introducing our characters. There's Bansir and Kobbi. They are the heroes of the initial story. And there's Arcad, which you're going to discover too, who is actually the richest man in Babylon at the time. But let's get into the whole story here, and let's see if you're ready to get rich. Bansir came to a discovery. He was very dissatisfied. He was very unhappy, very discouraged. Basically, he had a question he couldn't find an answer for. And that was, why is it other people I see around me are wealthy and I'm not? What gives? Because he didn't have any extra cash. His purse in the story is actually empty. His friend had come to him, this Kobbi, and was initially asking him, hey, can I borrow a few bucks, man? And I'll pay you back later. And he said, oh, if I could, I would, but I can't. Now, the interesting thing here is Bansir discusses his dream. And in his dream, he has, when he slept that previous night, he dreamt that he was a wealthy man and he had lots of money and he could freely give and freely spend. And when he woke up, he realized that he had nothing. And that's where all this unhappiness, discouragement, and dissatisfaction came from, was the fact that he woke up and he's like, that's not fair. I don't understand. And so he was, at this point of the story, mulling it over and really not coming to an answer. And his friend coming to him and allowing him to verbalize what he was thinking really helped him to step through the process and come to this realization that he was really dissatisfied. The dream did come to him and cause him to become dissatisfied, but how many times in life do we think about, oh, I'm broke again, and life gets in the way, and all of a sudden you forget about that, and you really don't do anything about it? It's an important point to remember. You will find that if you are willing to listen to the times when you have discouragement come into your life and you act upon it, then it's going to make a difference in your life. It's when you have that discouragement, but you don't act upon it, nothing changes. We'll dive into that a little deeper here in the video and in the next video too. He goes as far as saying that he's blaming it as a torment from the gods. In other words, the outside forces of this world, things that I have no control over, are keeping me poor. They're just not doing anything for me. Like, I just don't understand. As you will discover in this little book, it's not the outside forces, it's the inside forces that make the difference here. But again, more on that later. So he's talking through the problem with his friend Kobbi. Sorry, I am watching my notes here to make sure I don't miss a darn thing here, because this is so good. That he's always previously been content. In other words, he's been happy. He actually mentions in the storyline that he grew up with his friends and he was content and happy. He's earned a lot of money over the years. He's also freely spent his earnings. So that's an important point to remember. He's freely spent his earnings. And also Bansir does mention that he's like, my workmanship is good. Like, it's not that I do shoddy work. I do good work and I get paid very good for that. So I don't understand it. And he actually says in the book, and I quote, I have labored to build the finest chariots any man could make, soft-heartedly hoping someday the gods would recognize my deeds and bestow upon me great poverty. Now, let me tell you a little story here from my personal life. I was working a job one time, and I always knew that the secret to wealth creation was getting ownership into companies. I just didn't know how to do it right. I felt that if I did a good job and I worked hard for a company, that I could seek ownership in that said company. Now, ownership abilities have increased over time. It's one of the reasons why I became a developer, because developers are reasonably expensive, and sometimes you can entice a developer to do work for you with the pretense and the promise of ownership into the company. And I actually have ownership in a few small companies right now. I was like, oh, if I just do a good job and I am doing good, these guys are going to see it and they're going to bestow upon me some ownership into this company, and I'll be able to get wealthy from it. As you realize, this didn't happen. The company I was working for was an association of doctors, and the only owners could be doctors. So they couldn't even offer me ownership if they wanted to. I have come to learn over the years that a lot of us will wish for the man, I'll just call the man, or the job, or whatever you want to call it, is going to recognize your hard labors and reward you for it. Sometimes it happens. Now, at that same job, they gave me a few bonuses, which were really nice. And it was bonuses for like, yeah, you've done a really good job. We're really happy with what you did. Did I spend the bonuses? The first one, boom, gone immediately. It was in one hand and out the other, and it was gone. The second one I did retain for several years. Because I learned from the first one, the taxman took half right off the top, and I didn't want the taxman to take half right off the top. I wanted the money. I wanted to go spend the money, but I also wanted to not give the taxman half of my labors at that point in time. So that's a whole different discussion. Needless to say, I did come to learn as the years progressed that when you go to work for somebody, you've made a contract with that person whether you realize it or not. You've shook hands and you've said, hey, I'm going to do this job and you're going to pay me this much. So when the man pays you on Friday, you guys are even Steven. And you got to realize that. Nobody, and like in this situation here in this story, Bansir is hoping the gods are going to come down and shower him with wealth because he's done such a good job. It doesn't happen. I'm sorry. Sometimes you might get a bonus for good work, but in real life, it doesn't happen. The idea of having ownership into a company is the right idea in a lot of cases, but it's not right if you're hoping that hope is going to be good and everything's going to be good. It just doesn't work that way. So if you want to get ready to be rich, you got to realize this particular fact. You have to realize that when the man pays you on Friday, you guys are even. And I hate to call it that, but it is what it is, what it is. If you're enjoying this video so far, before I get on and finish off the last piece here, and it's an important piece, you want to hear this too, because it kind of alludes to what's going to happen next. And I'm going to also wrap up the video too for you and kind of pull all the ideas together. Be sure to subscribe and join the tribe here at Wealth Generation Strategies, and I promise you I'm always looking for really good ideas to present to you to help you build wealth in your life. Okay, so let's also realize there's one more point here. He believes there must be some secret. There's got to be some mystical secret that I just don't have, because he talks about the fact that he can labor and he can learn and he can do really awesome things. His handiwork is good. So it's not that he's slow of mind or slow of body. It's just that there's a secret he needs to come to realize. He's actually very right, but he's also very wrong at the same time. It is a secret because he doesn't know what it is. But the truth of the matter is he's almost thinking that it's a secret at a mystical level. It's some sort of, and it's not that. It's so simple. And in the next video, which is coming up, that I'm going to be doing soon here, is going to be talking about that secret. He believes that there must be a secret. And what happens is he realizes there's a childhood friend of his, Arcad, who is the richest man in Babylon. And he grew up with this man. He was one of his childhood friends. And they both kind of started at the same place. So he watched his friend go from obscurity to being the wealthiest man in Babylon. And he's like, how did he do it? We need to go talk to him. And that's his first insightful piece of wisdom. So let's wrap this up and let's see if you're really ready to get rich. First of all, you got to be dissatisfied. You have to be at this place where you want more in life. You want to have wealth in your life. You want to be able to spend freely. He goes and describes in the first chapter how he saw in his dream how his wife didn't have wrinkles and she was the younger version of his wife and free of care, and he was able to be generous with his friends, etc., etc., etc. But he had to come to a place where he realized that he was not happy. Are you at a place where you're not happy with your wealth? If you're watching this video, there's a pretty strong chance I'd say yes. But is it a strong enough reason to take the next step? And that is to find out why you're not wealthy. That's what's really important here. In future videos, this is exactly what I'm going to uncover. The steps to wealth generation are actually remarkably easy, and that brings up a whole nother point, but you're going to have to wait for that one. Be sure to subscribe. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've got another video showing up on the screen right now. It was a video that I did last week that was talking about some of the tips that I've come across to learn how to save fast. This video will get deep into different things like how you got to think, how to work your idea, etc. But you got to go watch that video. It's a good one. You're going to really enjoy it. But also be sure to, like I said, subscribe earlier and enjoy the rest of the series that I'm going to be putting out in this little book. I recommend you go pick it up. George Clason. You can find it for free as a download because it's in public domain now, as far as I know. But you can also pick it up in bookstores really inexpensively, and used bookstores. You can find them everywhere. I picked up, every time I go to a used bookstore and see one, I pick it up. It's usually $4 or $5, and I'll give it to somebody because it's such a good little book. See you in the next video. Otherwise, if I don't, have a great day, and we'll talk to you at another time. Bye-bye.